Hello everyone, Dr. Trill here with Free to Feed. I am very excited for today's conversation and to hear your guys' questions. We are going to be talking to the one and only Dana, who is a Free to Feed consultant. So I am one, honored to get to speak to all of you today. Two, I am very excited for this conversation. And so let me invite her in. And Dana, if you can hear me, if you could request to join me, if it will let you, and we will get started. Invite should be on its way. There we go. How are you today?
Hello. Good, good. How are you?
I am wonderful. I'm so excited for this conversation. A long time coming. So first and foremost, Dana, it is my honor to get to chat with you here on this platform. I believe this is how we met originally was through Instagram. So to kick off, I would love to start by having our listeners learn a little bit more about you. So tell us about your journey, what led you to the point that you're at right now, and your work with Free to Feed.
Wow, thank you so much for having this live with me tonight. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be working with such an amazing team. And yeah, I'm so excited for this. My name is Dana. I am a mother of three kids. Two boys suffer from multiple life-threatening food allergies, where my youngest child, she doesn't have any allergy. So, so basically, I've always worked with kids all of my life as a kinder music and a Montessori educator. So until my child was diagnosed with food allergies, until we figured out he had food allergies. So I had to make a big leap and shift my whole career. And I started studying, researching, and just became the nerd that I am. And I wanted to find solutions and answers to the questions that I had. And unfortunately, 12 years ago, there was really very minimal information about food allergies, and I couldn't find the support that I needed. I didn't have any guidance to what to do, how to deal with daily life situations. So my journey began from there. I spent every minute I can to learn about food allergies, and I became the first certified food allergen management consultant in the region. And so, because really, I really felt that I had to give back all the knowledge that I gained over the years, whether it was through my professional or personal experience. So this is how it all started. And then my second child was also diagnosed with food allergies. So so we live in a house where we have multiple dietary restrictions, but we're managing very well.
So I work with lots of families in similar situations where you kind of have this weird Venn diagram of like this little is reactive to this and this family member is reactive to that. So these are the foods that we can and can't eat. And it's a journey. It is a journey. And one of the things that I think would be really interesting to hear from you is, you said you had to educate yourself on navigating that journey. And it's a huge, it is a huge learning curve, right? I think that parents don't give themselves enough credit when we talk about food allergies and how incredibly hard it is to learn all of the nuance and the terms and the labels, and there's so much. And oftentimes when I talk to parents, they're like, yeah, I had a slip and I feel so bad, and I get that, I do, and I want to give them all a big hug and give them grace to say, like, it's okay. It's not normal for us to know all of these things. It's okay that there's a big learning curve and that you're just figuring it out. So, and that it gets easier, right, with time. And so I'd love to hear your journey through that of like the very beginning of like just trying to get the general basics to like where you're at right now. It sounds like things are much better and like you have a really good handle on your home and food life.
Well, yes, yes, it's a rough journey, I have to say, and hats off to all moms. They're doing a great job. Um, yeah, so I'm a big supporter and an advocate for breastfeeding, and I love it so much. And I know we have this in common. And so I breastfed my babies for more than a year, and I was following those advices and recommendations about delaying solids and focusing on breastfeeding. So I really enjoyed the breastfeeding journey, and I had no issues until I started to introduce solids for my child. So we had an allergic reaction with every exposure. So it wasn't really a very pleasant journey for a new mom who was like, this is a really exciting phase in every new mom's life when she starts to feed her child and cook for him and stuff like this. But this wasn't the case for us. It was a really scary phase. So when I started introducing solid foods like vegetables and fruits and pureed foods, he was okay with that. But then when I started introducing like yogurt and I don't know if you're familiar with the labane, the dried yogurts, he would have symptoms like severe symptoms, and we would go to the doctor, and we really never had a clear explanation on what the case was. So we were advised to change and try other kinds of cheeses, other kinds of milk, just keep on experimenting with the child. And every time we did that, we ended up in the ER. So it was a scary it was a very scary phase. I had no idea what was happening, and I was told that my child couldn't be tested until he was 3 years old, and there was like really nothing to do. And one of the recommendations was to stop breastfeeding. So, so since his symptoms were firstly developed when he was introduced to dairy, he was diagnosed with lactose intolerance, and it was all a vague diagnosis. It was all like I really didn't have a clear vision of what was happening. So I was advised to stop breastfeeding, and that my breast milk would is contributing and worsening those symptoms. But really, this wasn't a logical advice for me at that time. It really didn't resonate with what I think and what I know and what I believe. So I kept on researching, and it was a hard journey, and this was the case with us until I learned it the hard way about the EpiPens, about what to do if something happened, how to deal with allergic reactions, where could allergens be hidden, all of these little things. I was never told. I was never like advised with these things, with these little things. So this is where I started my own research and own work with my children.
So I also want to preface it like this was what around 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so your oldest is 12. So imagining like over a decade ago, navigating this, you're back and forth into the ER, going to emergency. Every time you introduce some form of cow's milk protein to your little, and like that is terrifying. And it's unfortunate because exactly as you mentioned, that starting solids like time, it should be like this happy, exciting, like they're so cute and they love food, and it's typically should be an exciting time for us. And instead, for many of us who have littles with food reactivity, it ends up being incredibly anxiety provoking. It can be hard for the entire family. It can also for sure be hard for them and can lead to other issues with feeding aversions because they're like, no, I don't want your cheese anymore.
Exactly.
And so it can be very, very hard. And unfortunately, It is also true that like some of that misinformation that you were given about like, well, if baby's reactive to cheese, then you have to stop breastfeeding, which is not factual. And I want to say like my bras off to you for continuing and like really leaning on your instincts and your gut, because 100% that is not factual. If you want to continue breastfeeding through the journey that you were in the midst of, absolutely you can. And if you don't want to, you don't need to, you don't have to. But there is a lack of support there and education, right? To give you all of the education that you need to then just make an educated decision versus you have to stop breastfeeding and not having the science to back that up. So massive kudos to you. When you were in the midst of that, then did you find that things in your diet were impacting? Did you end up eliminating anything from your diet, or were you able to continue to have cow's milk protein and not see a response elicited in your oldest?
Well, unfortunately, 12 years ago, I wish I had found you online, so or anywhere. But no, I wasn't told to cut off any food from my diet. And honestly, while I was breastfeeding, I had no issues with my child. He was a very happy, healthy baby, but also he had eczema since he was born, and we tried all sorts of creams and all of these lotions, but nothing happened. And also he had mucousy stool, which we were told was very normal. So and I had no idea what was normal and what was not. So that was it. But every time, the only advice I got was to stop breastfeeding and to switch to formula so we can focus on what's happening with the baby. So I I would have rather like kept on breastfeeding him and not introducing any foods to him at that time. So this what kept me determined to breastfeed.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel that in my soul. I wish I would have found me 7 years ago during
Yeah,
our first
yeah.
food allergy journey. So I feel that, and I hear that often from families, especially when they're in their next round, right? So you have three littles all together, and your youngest little girl does not have food allergies. So one of the really big questions that we always get, and I want to go back to like talking on the eczema and things like that too. So I'm going to put like a little pin in that. But one of the really big questions that's really common when I'm working with families, and I'm sure our listeners will relate to this, is I don't want to have another baby with food allergies if I can help it, right? Like, this is hard. This is so hard. Is there anything I can do to impact the probability, right? We know that if one of your children has food allergic responses, the probability of subsequent children is sevenfold higher than the normal population. So tell us, do you feel like there was anything specific to your third journey that impacted it and that led you to having two littles with food allergies and your last one does not have food allergies?
Yeah, well, honestly, it didn't really. I was thinking, but I, I love having kids. I love babies and I love this journey. And I was willing to take the risk. And really, to be very honest with you, having my first child diagnosed with a food allergy was devastating for me. Like it was a new thing, and I thought he was the only kid out there, and I was the only mom. But then when I gave birth to my second child and he was diagnosed with a food allergy, somehow there was a relief in my heart. Like, yes, there's two of them. They can support each other at home. It's okay. So they're not, he's the first, nobody's lonely. So
Yeah,
there's two of them.
that
So
literally might make me cry. I just,
yeah, so thinking of giving birth to a third child was really like, that's okay. It's
we're
we're
building a community.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. This was my thought.
Oh my
So
goodness. My
yeah,
my whole heart, I love that mentality. I love the thought of like, well, now there's support, now there's recognition, there's empathy, right? you
yeah,
you have a
yeah,
built-in little community of another individual who can be empathetic to your oldest situation. Oh, I
Yeah.
hadn't ever even thought like in that realm, and I can't tell you how incredibly beautiful I think that is. And so yeah, so then you have baby number three, and you're like, we're building this community, and it just happens to be that your third little doesn't have food allergic responses. And was that a surprise for you?
Yeah, it was a surprise and it wasn't a surprise at the same time. But also, luckily, I felt a relief because she's a girl. And like I thought, and she's a great advocate. She's the best advocate for her brothers. She takes care of them, she reads labels, she asks before, like she really takes care of them. And just knowing that she doesn't have allergies was also a relief somehow because I think that girls living with food allergies might have a tougher time, like using their beauty creams, their products, their shampoos. Like there are a lot of hidden allergens in so many places that girls might be tempted to use, or like boys are not really into these things. So, and I thought that she's gonna be cooking. It's just the female mentality that it's gonna be easier for her and like not to have allergies. And thank God, like everything happens for a reason, and I'm sure that this has happened to us because we are able to handle it. So so we're there for a reason.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can totally see that and kind of the nuances there. And so dialing kind of back into your journey and talking about those symptoms that you were seeing while you were breastfeeding, you were talking about eczema and these mucousy stools, and want to like mention too in the same realm as what I mentioned earlier with like, of course you don't know what a normal poop is supposed to look like, right? Like even if you've never had a baby before or you've never changed a child's diaper, and even if you have, you don't know the full spectrum of like what is normal, what is not. It would be kind of weird if you had your first baby and if you didn't have any experience with what came out of the back end of a child, that you just knew those things. And so if you go and say like, hey, my baby's stool is really mucousy, and you're told like, yep, totally normal, not a big deal, we take that at face value. We say like, oh, okay, that's not a big
Yeah.
deal. Move on, continue on. And so I think that's important to mention too, because oftentimes, like for me, I really felt like I missed opportunities for me to catch this earlier for my oldest because I didn't know any differently. I didn't know any better. And to have some grace with myself to say like, that's okay. And it would be weird if you did know those things. Um, so as we're talking about um, reactions specifically like through breast milk, I think this is really important because I talked about this today in a reel. So if you haven't seen it, definitely go check out the reel after we're done here for any of our listeners. So what is so fascinating and important to know in the midst of this is that when we are consuming a food like cheese, for example, and it travels through the gastrointestinal system, it's broken down into smaller pieces of itself. And so for some of us, we are transferring that small portion of the protein that happens to also be the portion of the protein that elicits a response for our infant or our child, right? And so oftentimes what we'll see through the breast is things like eczema, mucus stool, inconsolability, all of those seemingly smaller reactions compared to then giving them cheese directly, and now we're in the ER, right? And now they're getting the whole version of the protein. And so very often we get the questions then of like, cool, now I know my baby has a cow's milk protein allergy, right? We gave them cheese, we ended up in the ER. We know this is an issue. Do I have to take cheese out of my diet, right? I didn't before. Do I have to take it out of my diet? And that's so common to hear. And oftentimes, of course, the answer is it depends because it's every journey is very nuanced as to like, do you have those symptoms, right? So let's talk about what does the stool look like? What does the skin look like? Is there a possibility that you've actually had reactivity this whole time and we didn't know? And so if yes, if that is a possibility, then yeah, we should look at, you know, what things are likely eliciting a response and can we bring that immune system reactivity down with an elimination diet versus, if the same exact thing happened and you were like, I had no idea my baby was perfect, right? Skin was beautiful, stool was mwah, chef's kiss, right? Like the heavens shine down upon these diapers that are absolutely perfect. If that was the case, then we would likely say it's likely that what you transfer, which is normal, it's normal for us to transfer portions of our diet to our circulatory system and then to our breast, that the portion you transfer isn't what is eliciting a response for your child, right? And so, and all of that's very nuanced, and you don't have to navigate that alone. So with that, so you are working with families now one-on-one. Tell me a little bit more about, like, how does that feel on this side of your journey right now, and what is kind of the number one thing that you tell families when they first come to you and they're like, I think I'm dealing with food reactivity? Any words of wisdom there that you'd like to share?
Yeah, first of all, I've always been a big fan of your work, and I've been following you very closely. And I'm honored to be working with you. I love working with you. I love working with the team, with the families that we work with. It feels so rewarding, really, to see fear shift into confidence and anxiety into safety. It really, really feels so good. My advice for every mother who's going through a rough journey while breastfeeding her babies with food allergies, you are not alone, and please reach out. We're here to help, and we really want to help you. So, and now I want to ask something from you.
Yeah.
I need you to tell us more and give us updates on the amazing revolutionary research and work you've been working on the allergen kit for human milk. Yeah, please tell us more about this, please.
Absolutely. Oh, you caught me. You caught me. But for those of you who may be listening who are new or not familiar, I have been working for the last 4.5 years to launch the very first detection kit that can identify allergens in human milk, with the goal of helping us navigate and be able to figure out exactly what our baby's reactive to without long blind elimination diets and reintroduction strategies, right? So really narrowing down the amount of time that it takes us to figure out exactly what our baby's reactive to. And so we have grant funding and investor funding and all kinds of craziness that has led us to, we are on the ledge of being able to push into manufacturing to launch next year, early next year, our first test kit. So we are crazy excited. It has been a bonkers journey, like just absolutely crazy. And the first test kit will detect multiple cow's milk proteins in the presence of human milk, and we're going to launch that first so we can get feedback from families and lactation professionals to say, like, yep, this works really well. Hey, can you update this? We want the strip to be wider, whatever it may be, from the amazing families who are going to give a little friend, the amazing families who are going to utilize the test kit. And then we have all of the research completed to launch a full top 12 multiplex, which is, so
this is really
goal
exciting,
here, really what's important, and like perfect segue from the conversation that we had about, like, it's normal and natural for you to transfer these foods to your breast. We only run into an issue when we have a baby who's reactive to that portion of the protein that you transfer to the breast, right? And so the goal with these test kits is to allow you to confirm and rule out that this food is in fact an issue for you. Because if you don't have to remove cheese from your diet, I don't want you to. I want you to keep eating cheese and breastfeeding and reaching your feeding goals, whatever they may be. And so essentially how the kit works is you can test your breast milk at any time at home Just like you can test for COVID at home now, except with our test kit, you don't have to swab your nose, so no like brain cells that are required. It's less than a tablespoon of breast milk that is dropped onto our lateral flow test, similar to a pregnancy test or the COVID test, and then it gives you a result. And our app will allow you to take a picture of the test strip, and it auto-populates the results and the date and the time, and then has you track your symptoms, and our algorithm marries that information together to give you a correlation summary, a score, if you will. And then you get to make a decision. Based on your score, you can make a decision as to like, yeah, I think that cow's milk protein is eliciting a response and causing an issue. I'm going to remove it. I'm going to be able to test my milk and know when it's actually removed. I'm going to be able to test my milk in my freezer so I don't have to get rid of it and know what does and doesn't have cow's milk protein in it there. And if I wanted to sit down and eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, or if Starbucks gave me the wrong latte, or my mother-in-law doesn't know that butter is made out of cow's milk and she put it in the potatoes, I will be able to test my milk and confidently continue feeding my baby. And that's the goal. So I'm crazy excited, and I'm really, it's funny that nobody's harassed me and asked me that question during a live.
This is amazing. This is really exciting. I can't wait for this to be out.
Thank you. Thank you for asking that. That's incredibly kind. So I want to leave everybody with some words of encouragement and also where to find you. So Dana, on your side, before I do like my wrap up shenanigans, is there anything else that we didn't hit on that you want to touch on, or any other things that you want to mention to the followers?
Just follow us and reach out, and really follow Free to Feed for scientific-based information. I love the information, the approach, the way they're represented. I'm so honored to be part of the team. Thank you.
We are honored to have you. I absolutely love having you as a part of the team. I love the amount of experience that you bring to the team, the breadth of knowledge that you have on navigating the medical system in Jordan, right? In another country that it feels like quite often wherever we are, we feel like this is like the worst place for food allergy assistance. And then we meet another family who's in another country who's dealing with almost the exact same problem. So it's so empowering, I think, to have consultants that are nationwide, right, across the globe, that can have those conversations too, which is so, so impactful. And you speak Arabic, so that is a huge addition to our team to be able to help those families who are Arabic speaking, and so for that I'm so grateful. For those of you who are listening, you can schedule with Dana as well. She is available on our website at freetofeed.com/consults, and you can also read her full bio and more information about her, but she's available. And when you schedule a consult, I think it's important to mention too that not only do you get to meet one-on-one with one of our food allergy experts to talk through your journey and really deep dive into symptoms and what is normal, what's not normal, and then deep dive into the science, right? Just as you mentioned, talk about what's going on in baby's body, what's going on in the parent's body, and then with that information, what's the best next strategy for your particular journey? And then from there, you get plugged into the resources to execute that, right? So if you decide, yeah, this is the next step for me, then you have the opportunity to then say, okay, perfect, this is the program for you, we're gonna plug you into it, here's meal plans and recipes, and here's then a community of other families who are literally doing the same thing you are right now, because just like you said, you're not alone. And this can be so isolating when you're looking around and like nobody else understands what it is that you're going through. So I just want to mention that when you are getting a consult, you're getting so much. And Dana, myself, all of us, we are so incredibly proud of each and every one of you, and wherever you're at in your journey today. Our bras off to you. You are amazing, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks, Dana.
Thank you so much.